My next guest has spent 45 years in the broadcasting business, 30 of those at Conestoga College in the broadcasting program there. He has touched more lives than I think even he realizes. He has recently retired, and last night at the Conestoga College Broadcast Awards banquet, he was honored for his 30 years of service. It is such a pleasure for me to welcome to Daytime Bob Currie. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Gabby. That's great.
You know, the question I got asked the most, I think, in my 3 years at Conestoga was, were we related, or how were we related? So we're going to set the record straight right here.
As far as I know, not related at all.
Right now, we are not, that's right,
Yeah.
not related at all, although, as I said earlier, it would be a privilege to be related to you.
Boy, you say the nicest things. That's
I know,
great.
it's my job, you know.
Yeah.
When I was there, the general consensus was that you would never retire, that you could never retire because you're the only one who understands how things work at Conestoga.
I did wire it up. Like in the years we were there, we rewired the control room about 3 different times, I guess. We built 3 different remote trucks, which were, well, you were involved in the last one. We did different shows together. And yeah, we just wired it up.
Did you pass this information, I hope, on to the new fella?
The thing is, out there it changes so much. Like in, well, even around here, like this, you get new sets, you change every year a bit. And out there every summer we would rewire the place again, or change, not because I wanted to do it, because there was new things that were happening, or you're getting new equipment and that. And so it was an ongoing changing thing. So we started out doing drawings. They were never really right because of the changes, so you just said, well, to heck with it. Just better to learn how it goes and do it that way.
Is it true you had your own way of doing things? I mean, that's what everybody always said. You know, this is Bob Currie land. Nobody understands it but Bob.
I don't think that is really true. We found out there are 7 or 8 ways of doing anything technically that was right, and
Rob's laughing.
Rob's laughing over there. But we found you can never say you've got to do it this way. You know, it's Bob Currie's way. You got to do it this way. There's some things that obviously you'll cause an explosion, or you'll cause feedback or something. You know, don't do that way. But there's usually 8 or 10 ways of doing anything that works, and whatever works for the person, we try and get them to think rather than memorize a system, which is and that's where a lot of them started out.
Interesting that you would say that, because I think that I was trying to figure out why I feel that you taught me so much, and it wasn't the long explanations as everybody says. It was because you got us to think. There was more than one way to do something, and you would make us think of a way to do it.
There's a thing in child psychology that we often quote, you've likely heard it before, and that is, Mommy, don't say must, it makes me feel won't all over. And when you say to students, hey, you got to do it this way, they say, you know, forget it, and you find so much more of the same. Same when you're directing shows, like Richard up there is one of our students, and when things start getting tough, you talk very soft and you're very polite, and people respond the same way.
I don't know, is that how it happens in control rooms? I thought the shouting is what worked up in the control room. No, I'm
sometimes,
kidding,
but it generally goes downhill if you start doing that.
You know, I have to admit that this interview was throwing me for a loop, because there's so much that I want to talk to you about, so many questions I have for you that I really didn't know where to start. So let's start at the start. Let's start at the beginning. 1953, CKOX, I think.
Yeah, well, actually, 53 I got out of high school, I think. Could be about 52, 53. And the exact years, I'm not absolutely sure. But I worked for 2 years in a repair shop when television first came to Canada, and we were fixing TVs and radios and putting up antennas and that kind of thing. So I learned a lot technically there. That was in Exeter, Ontario. It was a little town about 30 miles north of London. And the way I got into broadcasting is kind of interesting. I was getting my hair cut in the barber shop, and the guy said, oh, in the Woodstock paper, they're looking for a guy at the radio station. He said, you're the guy that does the bingos over at Grand Bend and you know, sound car stuff and things like this. Would you be interested in that? He said, I know the guy that owns the station. I'll give you a good recommend. So I phoned them, and no resume or anything like that. And they said, come down, we'd like to talk to you. And inside of a week or so, I was at Woodstock.
Yeah, and only in the early days,
yeah,
eh?
And in less than 6 months, I was the chief engineer of the Woodstock. I was the youngest chief engineer in Canada. I was about 20. 21, I think you had to be then before they would legally allow you to run a station.
And you were, that's right. So, see,
yeah.
And that bears repeating. The youngest chief engineer in Canada. That's
yeah,
kind of
I think it was at the time, but
yeah.
and it was kind of cool.
Those must have been exciting days, Bob, because it was
we
the
were
early
pioneers
days
in so many things. Like when I started in radio, it was 78s and the big 16-inch transcription discs. There was no audio cassettes. There was certainly no video cassettes or anything like that. And about the time I went in, they started having LPs and 45s, and wow, this is vinyl, neat technology, sounds so much better than that. And we've seen through the years, whereas now the radio station out at Conestoga is totally computer. You're sitting down in the cafeteria listening to the stuff coming through and you think, gee, they're doing a pretty good job. The levels are right, all the fades are right, and you go up, there's not a soul in there. The computer's just spitting out the
Should you be telling us this secret?
Well, no, but I mean, that's
life, and that's very different even from just a few years ago when I was there.
When we had cassettes and carts and reel-to-reel tape, like editing on reel-to-reel tape with a little marker and that, and now you put all your voices into a computer, you just dance it around non-linear editing.
So you remember last night at the banquet, of course, there was this wonderful tribute to you. Did it embarrass you?
Yeah, I didn't know it was coming, really.
I know.
I figured it might have been a roast and a few people get up and say nasty things about me, but everybody said nice things, which was great.
Oh my goodness, I saw you squirming a couple of times. We've got a wonderful clip that we're going to show you right now. This is a tribute to Bob Currie.
Bob Currie, he came on board a little after things were not quite as chaotic, and he got to do all kinds of things, everything from pushing cameras to making cables to punching buttons and building equipment in the shop.
You helped launch so many careers, so many broadcast journalist careers, and for the role that you played in helping with mine, I just wanted to say thank you.
Take care and have a great retirement.
We really appreciate all the help you've given community programming over the years. You're one of the best in the business.
Thanks, Bob.
And I can say in a most heartfelt way, you're one of the few people that taught me everything I knew back then and know now.
Bob, congratulations on the many achievements of your career. You've brought a high degree of professionalism to everyone you've touched. You've helped so many people that you deserve a long, honorable, and very enjoyable retirement. So have a good one.
Wow. Lloyd Robertson, he said it beautifully, you know. You really did touch a lot of lives. Do you remember some of this? I mean, clearly 900 students, I think, went through the program in your 30 years there. Tell me about the students that you remember.
Lloyd Robertson there started as a junior announcer at CJCS in Stratford at the same time that I was starting as the engineer at Woodstock. So we knew each other way back when we were young kids, you know. Jim O'Connell, that was just on there at the first of that, he's one of the more successful students that have done very well. He's the producer of W5 for CTV. And a few years back, he was the Washington correspondent for CTV. And he was here as a guest speaker 2 or 3 years ago, and he was telling me that he was one of the very few reporters in Washington that could phone up George Bush personally any time of the night or day and ask him, you know, what's the scoop on this story, and he would get it true, which that's pretty neat thing. Doesn't happen to too many people.
That's right. And there are a lot of students who have gone on from the program to distinguish themselves, to make names for themselves in this industry. It's got to be a great program, right?
Well, yeah, we hope so, yeah.
We certainly think so. You know, I was talking to some people last night, and they say that your job there was actually enviable because you got to work with the students, you got to work closely with them, you got to help them with their projects, but you didn't have to mark them. So they love you.
Yeah, we never failed anybody, really.
You didn't have to ever fail anybody.
It was great.
Right.
I taught for about 10 or 12 years, yeah, from 69 to 79, like tech operations.
Did you like that?
Oh, yeah. Well,
did it ever get you? You would fix things and we would break them, and you would fix them and the students would break them, and you would fix them and we would break them.
Well,
did that ever get to you?
No, I don't think so. There were a few students you'd say, don't do that.
All right, they're telling us we have to go to another video. What's this one about, John? Oh, well, you know what, we're going to...
Since the night.
Thank you. Last
Why isn't it working? And certainly that has helped shape my attitudes and life as well. And yes, I do, too, frequently use the Bob hotline when I can't figure out why something is working. And horribly, I probably call even later than you guys do to see if he's still up to tell me why it's not working. But whether it's doing the weekend all-night show in a small market radio station, or whether it's working on a CKCO church mobile, whether it's flying up to the Arctic Circle to help set up with Inuit television in the northernmost part of Quebec, or whether it's doing Lloyd Robertson's camera at the '76 Olympic Games, whether it's being the technical producer of one of the world's first multi-camera setups designed specifically for DVD production, or whether it's helping that first year who knows what they want to do but isn't sure how, there is certainly no one better for the job.
We were just saying, it was wonderful to see all
So
those,
many kids
so
back,
many
yeah.
faces that
Yeah,
are familiar.
yeah.
Bob,
We had people there from 71, 72, the very first
That's right.
graduates, right, pretty well.
the very first graduate, Neil Aitchison.
Yeah.
That's right. From
yeah.
what year would that have been?
Well, 72, he would have
71?
actually graduated. I think it was the first year that there was graduates, yeah.
You know, we could go on talking for
Long
a
time.
very long time because I know you have so many stories and it would
Yeah.
be wonderful to reminisce with you. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So the only thing I really need for you to know is that I am so glad that you were at Conestoga College when I went through the program.
Appreciate you saying that. That was great.
Congratulations, Bob, and have a wonderful retirement.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to check in with, absolutely, yeah. They're applauding here in the studio. It's wonderful. We have to check in with Plugged In right now, find out what they are working on for tonight's show. We'll be back in a minute.